What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Micah. This is Winston. As always, we're just going to dive right into it. This is Caesar versus Ariovistus, Battle of Vosges, 58 BC. Without further ado, we're just going to dive right into it.
While Caesar had been busy fighting the Helvetii at the Battle of Bibracte, elsewhere in Gaul, a new threat had emerged. The Suebi, a fiercely warlike Germanic people who had recently crossed the Rhine, were now looking to establish a new homeland in Gaul. These fierce warriors and their leader, Ariovistus, would challenge the Roman legions and provide Caesar with another opportunity to prove his mettle.
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, if it's just like the bordering parts of Gaul that really are, leaning on Rome's protection through. And if I'm not mistaken, it's just from the Germanic tribes and stuff. Because for some reason, they like the huge sways of Germanic tribes keep wanting to go from Germania to Gaul. And for some reason, I'm guessing to start their own, little, their own tribes that will, eventually lead to a kingdom and all that other stuff. But it is kind of crazy to see how many there are, though. You know what I'm saying? Let's keep going.
The Suebi, led by their king Ariovistus, had first arrived in Gaul in 63 BC as mercenaries for the Sequani and Averni in their war against the Aedui, a Roman ally. The 15,000 warriors that Ariovistus initially brought proved decisive, helping to secure a crucial victory over the Aedui at the Battle of Magito Brega, which forced the Aedui to become a tributary to the Sequani. In response to this, the Aedui sent an envoy, Diviciacus, to ask Rome for help, but the Republic was still recovering from the political shock of the Catiline conspiracy and was distracted by an Allobroges revolt. The governor of Transalpine Gaul was ordered to help Rome's Gallic allies when possible, and in 59 BC, the Senate named Ariovistus a friend of the people of Rome to pacify him and keep him in check. Ariovistus used that time to consolidate his position. After helping the Sequani, he demanded a third of their lands as payment. The Sequani gave in, and Ariovistus began moving more of his people across the Rhine to settle in this new land. By 58 BC, as many as 120,000 Suebi had now crossed the Rhine and made their home in Gaul. Furthermore, Ariovistus was demanding more Sequani territory in order to settle an extra 24,000 Germans and had been taking hostages in order to keep the Sequani and Aedui obedient. Something had to be done. Following his victory over the Helvetii, Caesar had taken some time to rest in Bibracte. While
It almost makes me wonder. It's like this is one of the reasons why Rome was never really able to conquer Germania. Yeah, Germania because one, there's so many tribes. 'Cause I'm sure, it was a pretty populated place. All giving, for the fact that it's none but pretty much tribes out there. But it's kind of crazy to see that, and the fact that it seems like they were just really, kind of war hungry. You know what I'm saying? Like, always trying to find the next not war hungry, but territory hungry. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were always trying to find the next territory and next stuff just to grow their civilization to have more people come in or something. That's what it seems like. But let's see.
whilst encamped there, he was visited by a council of Gallic leaders and diplomats, led by Diviciacus. They complimented Caesar on his victory and implored him to intervene in the situation, pointing out that if the Germans continued their conquests, soon the Suebi would be directly bordering Roman territory. Caesar, again, was happy to oblige. As Ariovistus was a friend of Rome, however, Caesar could not immediately go to war. Instead, Caesar first invited Ariovistus to meet him, which was declined. Then he sent a diplomat to Ariovistus, asking him to return the Gallic hostages he had taken and to stop any hostilities. Caesar reminded him that if he were to comply, the Romans would still consider him a friend of Rome and not take any action against him. This was a good deal for Ariovistus. He'd be allowed to keep the lands he had already taken from the Sequani without a fight.
It's kind of crazy even seeing them even extending this hand to him, because you know what I'm saying, whenever we think of Rome, we always just think of this conquering war machine that just wants everything in its path. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if I'm not mistaken, their whole philosophy was that if any territory revolted against them, it was almost like a perversion against, you know, the natural orders of things. You know what I'm saying? Like, so for them to extend this hand to him. And not only that, but if we notice, he's being actually really civil. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no I mean, obviously, who knows what was going on behind the scenes, but you know what I'm saying? It's kind of crazy to see how civil he actually was trying to be towards this Germanic, you know, king or whatever, and you know, trying to see if they can solve this civilly, you know, without war, without bloodshed, and all this stuff, which is really kind of crazy to see back in 58 BC. You know what I'm saying? Where I don't know, it's, to me, it's kind of weird, but I'm sure it's probably happening more, you know, times than not. You know what I'm saying? So.
Instead of accepting the terms, Ariovistus doubled down and sent a message back to Caesar saying that if the Romans could conquer where and how they liked, so could he. At the same time, the 24,000 new Germans who had crossed the Rhine were allowed to raise and pillage the Gallic lands as they pleased, with more Germans preparing to...
Well, except Rome actually has the military power and the personnel power to do this. You don't. So let's see. I mean, it's kind of the disrespect that you see from that. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, Rome has that ability, but they put in the work to have that ability. You know what I'm saying? Like, for over hundreds of years, since 700 BC, they've been putting in the work to have the empire that they have. So, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Just what I'm saying. So let's see. Yeah, because at the end of the day, anyway, what's not stopping Ariovistus to start going into Roman territory? Nothing, literally. And by the way he's acting, it would have been done, you know, right after he would have been done with this portion of Gaul. Guaranteed he probably would have tried to go in there, but you know what I'm saying? That's one of those.
Across the river to join Ariovistus. Caesar now had his justification, as he had a legal decree from the Senate to protect Rome's Gallic allies. He could justify that the Suebi were threatening Rome's borders, and Ariovistus had forfeited his status as a friend of Rome by continuing to pillage the land of Rome's allies. Yet again, Caesar had the chance to market himself as the saviour of Gaul. Gathering his 6 legions, roughly 30,000 men, Caesar set out on the warpath. Both Ariovistus and Caesar recognized the importance of Vesontio, the largest town in the Sequani territories. Well fortified and well supplied, it would be crucial to the war effort. Both fought.
See, this is where we start seeing how the Roman discipline starts to affect how, you know, wars are waged back then, because you can just tell the Germans don't have any type of discipline whatsoever. Maybe they do, but just for the fact that they kept resting and doing all this stuff, you can tell that they probably have a huge groups of soldiers and people and stuff like that who don't really have the discipline in them and aren't really willing to keep going and stuff, you know, for certain things. But for Rome, there's no question. Like, you're gonna march to this river or this point, and there's no questions about it. Or otherwise, you can get freaking. We can go ahead and pick 10 of you guys and 10 out of 1 of you guys, and we go ahead and have a showdown like that. You know what I'm saying? If you know what I mean.
Forces began marching to the town. However, the Romans, marching day and night, were able to get there first. Caesar rested there briefly while supplying the legions. But as they rested, rumours began reaching the men of the strength and ferocity of the Germans. Even some of Caesar's officers began having their doubts, and it almost seemed as if Caesar would have a mutiny on his hands. Caesar was, however, able to restore order by insisting that he would face Ariovistus with just his most trusted 10th Legion if none others would follow. This inspired a fanatical loyalty in the 10th Legion, whilst the others, motivated by shame at being thought of as cowards, rallied, and the legions began to march out to meet the Suebi. Ariovistus, impressed with the speed at which the Romans had been able to move and take Vesontio, sent messages to Caesar asking for a meeting, with only some cavalry allowed as bodyguards, at the place called Vosges in modern-day Alsace. Caesar agreed, but the meeting did not go well, with both generals reiterating their positions. Ariovistus even went so far as to say that if he were to kill Caesar, there would be many in Rome that would be grateful, showing that he knew what the political situation in Rome was. Negotiations broke down after this, and the cavalry on both sides had a minor skirmish before retreating back to their respective camps. A few days later, Ariovistus asked for another meeting. Caesar, sensing a trap, sent his translators. This was just as well, as Ariovistus promptly captured the two and even considered burning them alive.
Which kind of sucks too, for obviously for them. Like, damn, I wonder if the translator actually knew what the stakes could have been when he went, or if he just went in blind. You know what I'm saying? Because that has to be like either devotion, like blind devotion, or something. Because you know what I'm saying? Like, you knew, like, okay, this is probably a trap, and you know, now you have the option of getting burned alive. So one of the worst deaths known to man. So I don't know. It's just one of those things. Wonder how they went about it and stuff.
With his plan to capture Caesar having failed, Ariovistus instead moved to battle. His army was composed of 6,000 cavalry, 16,000 light infantry, and the rest heavier infantry, for a total of around 30,000 to 40,000 men. Taking Caesar by surprise, Ariovistus marched his force quickly behind Caesar's position and set up camp, cutting off the Romans from their supply lines. For 5 days, Caesar drew out his army in battle formation, willing to give battle, but Ariovistus was content to wait and strangle Caesar's supply line, only engaging in cavalry skirmishes. The Suebi cavalry fought in a unique fashion. For every horseman, there was an infantryman mixed into their formation. These men were lightly armed in order.
I wonder how that would work whenever, you know, the cavalry is in full speed. You know what I'm saying? Like, how would that work? Like, if that's the case, wouldn't the men kind of restrict the cavalry to a almost jogging pace for the horses? You know what I'm saying? Which, in my opinion, would make for some really poor cavalry charges. But man, maybe I'm wrong. Who knows?
To keep up with the cavalry, and together provided a flexible and difficult force to handle, and the Roman cavalry got the worst of the fighting. Caesar, knowing that he would have to do something to break the stalemate or else risk being starved out, formed his legions into 3 lines. He marched this force past the Suebi position and ordered the 3rd line to begin construction of a 2nd camp, whilst the first 2 lines formed up to defend them. Ariovistus sent all of his light infantry and cavalry to harass the legionaries, but seemed reluctant to commit his entire force, and so they were easily held off by the Romans. With the 2nd camp complete, Caesar left 2 legions and part of his auxiliaries to defend it, whilst his other 4 legions returned to the main camp. Realizing that Caesar would now be able to use this 2nd camp to reconnect with his supply line, Ariovistus sent part of his army to attack this 2nd camp. The fighting was tough, lasting from midday into the evening, but eventually the Romans were able to repel the attack and even took some prisoners. Upon questioning these Suebi, Caesar learnt that Ariovistus had apparently been told by his priests not to commit his army until after the new moon, which was why he had not used his whole army to prevent the legions constructing their second camp.
I'm about to say, you might as well, because what he pretty much just showed you is that he's afraid, and until that new moon arrives, he's going to be afraid, because he's going to think in the back of his mind that if I engage in total war with him, I'm probably going to lose, which means all Caesar has to do is go exactly what he just said, go on an offensive and freaking make him commit his entire army and stuff. He ain't got no other choice. Very smart.
Having learnt this, Caesar decided to go on the offensive. Leaving a small garrison in each camp, Caesar formed his 6 legions into a triple-axis formation with his cavalry in reserve and marched on the Suebi camp. The Germans came out to meet him, forming their wagons and baggage train into a semicircle behind them, their women standing on them urging the men on. Noticing that the German left flank was slightly weaker, Caesar positioned himself opposite on the Roman right and gave the order for his men to charge. But as he did, the Suebi also charged. Their assault was so fast and surprising that the Romans had to drop their pila before they could even throw them, drawing their swords and fighting in hand-to-hand combat. The Germans managed to form a shield wall, and neither side seemed able to gain an upper hand. Having been unable to throw their javelins before...
Yeah, and it's crazy too, because those... I actually learned this only through playing freaking Rome, Total War Rome 2 or whatever. And if you guys haven't played it, it's actually a really good game, because the creators, they did a really good job with the historical things overall on everything, like down to even the town names. Like, you have London named Londinium or something like that, which is actually what they named it. So it's actually really cool if you ever play it. But whenever you play it, that's exactly what they do. Is right before they engage in a war, in battle, they take their javelin and they freaking hurl it, like at least 1 or 2 of them, and they freaking get it and get their swords and then get ready. And it's kind of cool to actually see that that's actually what they did. So just one of those things. If you're into gaming, I totally recommend Rome Total War or any Total War game. It's amazing, especially if you love, war or how to strategy games, how to be strategic in war and all that other stuff. Is amazing.
Before charging, the Romans struggled to break the shield wall as easily as they had at the Battle of Bibracte. After some hard fighting, the Roman right, led by Caesar, started to push back the German left. However, the Suebi on the right outnumbered their Roman opponents and were starting to get the upper hand. The Roman cavalry, led by the son of Triumvir Marcus Licinius Crassus, Publius, had not yet engaged in the battle, and from his position he could see the Roman left starting to crumble. Using his own initiative, Crassus led the third line, which had been kept in reserve, to support the flank, arriving just in time to avoid a disaster. With their left flank broken and their right now under severe pressure, the Suebi army broke and ran. It is not known how many people died in this battle, but the Germans attempting to retreat through their wagons were said to have been packed so tightly that the dead could not even fall over. The entire Suebi force, including Ariovistus, fled back across the Rhine, pursued by the Roman cavalry. Caesar had won 2 important campaigns in one season. For now, he left Labienus to winter with the legions in Sequani territory, whilst he attended to his governing duties in Cisalpine Gaul. But by wintering his legions in Gallic territory, Caesar was making a point. This was beginning to look less like intervention and more like occupation. With the Germanic threat dealt with, Caesar would be able to turn his attention to Gaul proper. Our series on the Gallic Wars is just starting.
Alright guys, we're going to end it there. So yeah, definitely getting really good. So we'll go ahead and end it here, and Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how this is progressing, to see how they went from protecting Gaul to conquering Gaul. So definitely, I'm definitely excited to see what happens next. So in any case, so if you guys like the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm out.